Hello everyone and welcome. Today we are very pleased to welcome Lousineh Hakobyan. Lousineh is a lawyer, president of the Europe in Law Association and co-coordinator of the EU-Armenia Civil Society Platform. For many years she has worked on human rights, the rule of law, democratic reforms and strengthening civil society in Armenia. Lousineh, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. It's a pleasure to have you with us today. My name is Tahmina Taghiyeva. I am an Azerbaijani journalist living in exile in Switzerland. Together with journalists and civil society representatives from both Armenia and Azerbaijan, we are recording a series of conversations with experts from our two societies. Our goal is to create a space for thoughtful dialogue and to discuss issues that are essential for building a just, democratic, and sustainable peace. Today, we would like to talk with you about the rule of law, democracy, human rights, and civil society in building peace in our region. According to the format of our interviews, when we speak with an expert from Armenia, I begin the conversation by asking the first question, and I will also be asking most of today's questions. So if you are ready, let's begin. So before we speak about the broader challenges of peace building, I'd like to begin with your own work. You are the president of the Europe in Law Association and co-coordinator of EU-Armenia Civil Society Platform. Could you tell us about your work and what are the main issues you focus on today and why are they important for Armenia's democratic development?
Thank you, Tahmina. Hello, Hovsep. It's good to have you. And it's a pleasure to be with you today for this very interesting podcast. I will start by telling a few words about my organization and the EU-Armenia Civil Society Platform. My organization was founded in 2011, so this year we celebrated our 15th anniversary, and we started as a group of lawyers. The founding members of the organization were lawyers. And what we did was we were greatly interested in supporting the rule of law, the democratization in Armenia by doing some trainings and capacity building in the area of the European Court of Human Rights, European Convention on Human Rights, and we started with like freedom of expression, with the issues related to freedom of expression. Back in 2011, defamation and insult were decriminalized in Armenia, and this was followed by a flood of cases against journalists and media outlets. Judges, journalists, and lawyers, these three groups had limited understanding of the freedom of expression standards as enshrined in the European Convention on Human Rights and developed by the case law of the European Court of Human Rights. So at that time we cooperated a lot with British lawyers from renowned legal chambers across the UK to build some capacity and knowledge of these standards. And gradually we moved to different other rights. We were very active starting from 2012 in the area of local election observation, and we were very active in defending our citizens' electoral rights by engaging in domestic electoral observation, by filing election-related complaints to different commissions and to the administrative court, etc. And also in monitoring the processes of public importance in the country, such as the appointments and elections of judges of different levels, and even the European Court, the judge elected in respect of Armenia to the European Court of Human Rights, and so on. And in parallel, we did a lot of strategic litigation on different issues. Many of these cases are in the European Court of Human Rights, and we have been successful in a number of cases. But after the Velvet Revolution of 2018, we felt that we should change a little bit our focus and our priorities, and we focused more on supporting the state in institution building. And so it was more appropriate for us to just get more engaged with the state, with different public institutions. So since 2022, we engaged a lot with the Armenian Constitutional Court in supporting this important body to become a stronger institution administering constitutional justice in Armenia by improving their institutional capacities, by supporting them in developing their multi-annual institutional strategy, by supporting them in communicating more what they are doing to the broader public, etc. After Armenia ratified the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, we did a lot to build capacity and knowledge in the area of international criminal law and so on. And since 2022, when EU-Armenia platform was established, we became more active in also EU-Armenia bilateral relations. This platform is established under SEPA, which is opened as Comprehensive and Enhanced Partnership Agreement, and this is the main agreement that currently we have with the European Union, signed in 2017 and fully became effective in 2021. And this agreement envisages another institution, a civil society institution, which is to monitor the implementation of this agreement by both the EU and the Armenian government. So since 2022, my organization was more engaged also in the EU-Armenia civil society platform, and we have monitored the implementation of Armenia's obligations before the EU in different areas: rule of law, anti-corruption policy, human rights, democratization, labor rights, state of small and medium enterprises, and many, many other areas. And we now have established a tradition of producing annual reports on different priority areas that we select. SEPA is, of course, a very big and comprehensive document. It's impossible for us as civil society with our limited resources to monitor all the commitments under SEPA, but we prioritize, and annually we select our priorities and we come up with reports. So this year's report will be thematic. It will be on the rule of law and state of the judicial reform in Armenia. So this much in a nutshell. Of course, there is more to say, but I will stop here and we'll take it from.
Thank you. So your work naturally brings us to a broader question about democracy and peace. For many years, the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan has been one of the central political issues in both countries. Some observers argue that when a conflict dominates public life for so long, democratic reforms, freedom of expression, government accountability, and human rights often receive less attention. As a journalist, I have often seen how discussions about corruption, public accountability, and democratic reforms became much more difficult because national security was considered as the highest priority. Do you think unresolved conflicts can slow down democratic development and human rights reforms? And could a lasting peace create more space for democracy, stronger institutions, and better protection of human rights in both Armenia and Azerbaijan?
This is a very interesting question, and also it varies depending on the context. For example, I'm also active in the framework of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, and there was a very interesting phenomenon that I witnessed of our Ukrainian colleagues being engaged and dragged into this terrible war, this aggressive war started by Russia, but at the same time not forgetting about the internal reforms of the country. So here's a good example of how this is possible. In Armenia as well, throughout the years that there was this unresolved conflict with Azerbaijan, there were also from the government side, maybe until 2018, there were clear, again, there was clear reluctance of reforming anything, and again, there would be heavy reliance on the security situation, etc. But on the other hand, it should be mentioned that Armenia had always had a very vibrant civil society, and of course, security considerations were important, but the penchant for democracy was much stronger, and people really, from time to time, things would escalate, especially from election to election, when we felt that we were robbed of our right to freely vote. We would really protest, and there would be a lot of resistance. And in between elections, there would be constant fight on a number of areas, like human rights, right to life, freedom of expression, and many, many other issues. So it will be fair to say that thanks to Armenia's civil society, democracy was never understated, underestimated, and it was never given less attention to. Starting from 2018, it is becoming clear that also democracy is something that has been achieved. Like, of course, when I'm saying democracy, I do not mean to say that Armenia is like a faultless country where everything is, all human rights are perfectly respected and protected and so on. But it is more to say that this, at least having achieved free and fair elections in Armenia, we feel that this is something that needs to be protected severely. And the society is no longer ready to go back to what we had before 2018. So there is a very strong feeling that this is an important achievement, and it needs to be safeguarded, protected, and developed. As regards like human rights issues, of course, there are issues, and still civil society is doing a lot to raise these issues, to put sufficient pressure on the government. A very interesting example, recent example, was a case of a young man who had some unpleasant argument with Armenia's prime minister, just ahead of these last elections. And then the law enforcement instituted a criminal case against him, and he was put to jail. There was a decision on detention adopted against him, so he was put behind the bars on remand. And then there was a lot of activeness by Armenian civil society, and it should also be added that this guy went on a hunger strike, and there was a lot of support by civil society and pressure by different civil society groups, by the broader public, etc. So at the very end, a group of civil society organizations presented a guarantee to the criminal authorities, to the general prosecutor, to assure that this guy, if there is a criminal case, a criminal charge against him, he will not avoid criminal proceedings, and that this group guarantees that he will turn up for all the interrogations and any other investigative actions and so on. And it was by virtue of civil society, it was achieved that this guy was set free. So this is again another example of how Armenian civil society manages to monitor internal reforms even now. There are also a lot of, maybe it will be right to say, accusations in the direction of civil society, saying that civil society currently is not very harsh in criticizing the Armenian government for different failings. I wouldn't agree with this. I think that because of the government's attitude since 2018, it is now possible to have some sort of constructive dialogue with the government on a number of issues. And there are issues on which civil society is successful. So we have achieved understanding on the part of the government that they have erred on this or that situation. But there are issues where we are not successful and we continue fighting. But this fight is not like the one we had before 2018. It's more constructive. There is more dialogue. And there is more openness also on the part of the government. So,
in Azerbaijan, actually, we can say that today mostly civil society is destroyed, and a lot of human rights activists and defenders are in exile. And how you see this peace building process in this context, when from Azerbaijan side, there are no free media, or still there are, but they are not in country, and also there are not any more NGOs that could maybe in somehow work on this issue from country and with local people and bring their voice to this peace building process.
This is difficult indeed, but from what I understand, also these people that are in exile, they are also known in Azerbaijani society as people who have attempted or tried to improve the democratic situation in the country, right? So there are still people who are well respected in Azerbaijan because of their tenacity, endurance, because of the principles and the values that they followed, and so on. So I think that these voices are important, even from outside the country, because in many cases they influence the people. In Armenia also, we had people that from outside they could make great influence. They become bloggers, and they become active people, and they influence the perceptions and the developments inside the country. So in this sense, I don't think that the activists and human rights defenders and other public figures, Azerbaijani public figures that are in exile, are less influential in Azerbaijan. So these people can play their role, can play their part in peace building and in speaking for peace, for the prosperity of the South Caucasus region, of the countries in the South Caucasus region, for the benefits of the peace and economic cooperation and open communications and so on. So I understand. Of course, it would have been wonderful if these people were inside the country, but your voices are not less important and influential.
So, also, would you like to ask some questions? Or can I continue?
For sure, I would like to ask Lousineh a question about refugees and displaced persons. Lousineh, we know that after the First Karabakh War, hundreds of thousands of people on both sides became refugees or internally displaced persons. After the Second Karabakh War, internally displaced persons on the Azerbaijani side were able to return to their homes, of course, where demining is completed, but the number of Armenian refugees increased by 150,000, reaching 600,000, most of whom lost their property without receiving any compensation. Do you think there's any way to secure the return of these people as well as those Azerbaijanis from Armenia with the same status to their homes through international legal procedures or proceeding, or at least to receive compensation for lost property?
After both Armenia and Azerbaijan joined the Council of Europe and came under the jurisdiction of the European Court of Human Rights, cases were brought both by Armenians that became refugees after the first conflict in Armenia, and also Azerbaijanis against Armenia. And there was a number of these cases, and at the end there were two kind of landmark cases, like Sargsyan against Azerbaijan and Chiragov against Armenia, in which the court ruled in favor of just satisfaction for the applicants, but it also said that for the broader problem, a political solution needs to be found. So the assumption is that this political solution would be found through peace negotiations and the deals in the frameworks of these negotiations. So unfortunately, this political solution has not been found yet. And things got exacerbated by the second war in 2020, and finally by the 2023 forced deportation of Armenians from Karabakh. So we have now a situation where there is a kind of ongoing, continuous violation of rights. And there should be a political will, because international courts, the European Court of Human Rights, International Criminal Court, International Court of Justice, or any other international court, they are dependent on the will of the states, and they are dependent on cooperation by the states. So there will be, I'm sure, many other applicants, because, and there are many other applicants, after the war in 2020, after 2023, and so on. and I'm sure from the Armenian side, I know exactly there are a number of cases, and I'm sure there are cases from the Azerbaijani side. But at the end of the day, these courts can award just satisfaction, some symbolic amounts, for lost property, for violated private rights, for inhuman and degrading treatment, for torture, and for other violations. But at the end of the day, it will be up to political leaders of the countries to demonstrate political will and to stop the violations. And in this case, if we are talking about more recent batch of violations, then of course we should mention the violation of the rights of Armenians from Artsakh. We should not forget, because these are more recent incidents. So from a purely human rights perspective, we can speak of continuous violations, and of course it will be up to states to put a stop to these violations. I don't know, Hovsep, if I answered your question, but from an human rights perspective, we can speak about continuous violations of rights. And the courts may rule that there are violations and so on, but the courts at the end of the day need a political will to execute their rulings.
Yes, but from other side, when we are speaking about political will, political decision, we see that Armenian government are ready to give up from any rights, including rights of refugees, under the threat of new war, which is coming from President Aliyev. We understood that under this pressure, Armenian government even ready to withdraw all appeals to international court, to human rights, European Court of Human Rights. So do you see possible have a peace when rights of thousands of peoples officially refused, officially, cancelled,
Also, this is a really big discussion. It's about whether there can be peace without justice. Yeah, it's a big discussion, and there are people and experts who would say there can be no peace without justice, but equally there can be experts who can show life examples when there was peace without justice, like plenty of historic examples of both versions. But from a human rights person's perspective, it's bad if violators of blatant violators of human rights and humanitarian law go unpunished in the world. This kind of undermines the entire social construct. So from a human rights perspective, it's of course important that there is justice, and justice precedes peace. But we understand that in real life, not always is it a possibility. And also in some cases it is possible, and in other cases it's not possible. It also depends on who the international community of states designates as a violator or designates as a non-violator. So this is also depends on the opinion of the states that sit in the Security Council of the UN, in different other configurations in the OSCE, in different other international fora and international bodies. So this is an issue which does not have a clear answer, and here I'm not giving a lawyer's answer. It's just life examples show that yeah, there were cases when there were severe violations and there was peace afterwards. But there should be political will to stop the violations. But this is
Violations or ongoing violations, you mean?
achieved through pressure, through speaking about this, through applications to these international courts. For this reason, I do not think that withdrawing cases is right, because also by these cases, truth is established. Yes, everybody can have his or her version of truth in this or that alleged situation of human rights violation or humanitarian violation. But at the end of the year, at the end of the day, if you go to a court and the court says that, this was the facts, yeah? This was the facts of the case and gives reasoning and so on, this becomes the truth. And the parties to this case need to accept this truth and to proceed according to the ruling of this international court. So for this reason, it is important to also, in terms of establishing the truth, going to this court.
Of course, just one small remark, last one, Tahmina. It's not only about refugees. This is also about, for example, war crime, which was from both sides, you know, and it would be good to punish this who implemented these war crimes, who executed these war crimes, to become more secure for each other. Because, you know, if, you know, we see the crime person who is freely operating in our countries, it means that we are less secure. And also it is about the justice also, because war crime is something terrible which should be prevented for future also. And when you are withdrawing your appeals on these cases also, it means that you are withdrawing from justice. Don't you think this?
Also, just to add, for example, if you are talking about war crimes, then the right body to resolve this matter would be International Criminal Court. Of course, the countries can also administer their own justice. Yeah, if, for example, Azerbaijan is now trying Armenians from Karabakh, the Nagorno-Karabakh leadership, and so on and so forth. But and also, if if Armenia has captures some Azerbaijani war criminals, and tries them, this is also a possibility. But because of this long history of conflict, there is no trust in the fact that an Azerbaijani court can administer fair justice to Armenians. And of course, on the part of Azerbaijan, there would be lack of trust that Armenian courts would be able to administer fair justice to Azerbaijani alleged criminals. So that is the reason why going to, in these cases, to international courts is the right way to proceed. But for this, Azerbaijan will also need to ratify the Rome Statute, which Aliyev is currently reluctant to do. Armenia ratified the Rome Statute, so yeah, there can be applications to the International Criminal Court in respect of crimes committed in the territory of Armenia. But with Azerbaijan, we will have problems here.
So I would like to go back to the question about return of Karabakh Armenians. If we speak specifically about Armenians who left Nagorno-Karabakh in 2023, what conditions would be necessary for those who wish to return to do so safely and voluntarily and with dignity? What guarantees would they need to feel secure?
I think we will need to ask these people in the first place what will make them feel secure. On my part, I think that first of all, safety will be an important issue, that they feel safe after their return, that they enjoy democratic rights, they have freedom of expression, they have other rights, and also international presence, international peacekeepers, and so on. Because I mean, it's not logical, and we cannot expect that these people will just listen to Azerbaijani leadership that says that, okay, we will provide you safe conditions, you can now return. This will not be enough because of the history, because of what happened also in 2020, in 2022, 2023, the blockade of the Lachin corridor and this humanitarian crisis. Of course, there will be need for international guarantees. But of course, the political will on both sides, on Armenia and on Azerbaijan, not to continue more on the side of Azerbaijan, because the Armenian side has declared that they are for peace, they want the signing of the peace agreement as soon as possible. So we should talk here more of the Azerbaijani political will, not to resume the hostilities, not to continue the conflict, and so on. If these guarantees are there and there is international presence, peacekeepers and international contingent, I think it will be possible to speak about to speak about the return. Otherwise, I don't think that they will be safe.
So in this case, we see that even Azerbaijani people live now in exile only because of their opinion, their political position. So how can Armenians go back to their homes having much more stronger pressure from Azerbaijani government, because not only their political position, but also their ethnicity, which is additional sin, let's say, yeah? It is rhetoric question. Please, Tahmina.
Yeah, and you also mentioned how it's important as an agreement between these countries, but from your perspective as a lawyer and human rights advocate, when does real peace actually begin? And what needs to change in the everyday lives of ordinary Armenians and Azerbaijanis before we can truly say that peace has become a reality?
I think a lot of mental changes need to take place. But this, again, can be achieved if there is political will. So if there is reduction of hostile, antagonistic rhetoric and consistent reduction of this rhetoric, at the end of the day, it will affect ordinary citizens. It's painful, I understand. People have lost their sons, their husbands, their relatives. It's very difficult to forgive, to just say that we erase now everything and we we put aside all that has happened and rebuild peace. So a lot needs to be done from above, like starting from reducing the hostile rhetoric. And in this case, I can't see that our leadership has this hostile rhetoric. So more, if we are to speak plainly, then we should speak about Aliyev and his entourage, about them reducing hostile rhetoric. This is a necessary precondition. And then confidence building measures different, like this dialogue between civil societies and so on. There is this initiative by Armenian and Azerbaijani, let's say, public figures, yeah, because there is always this argument whether you have civil society from the Azerbaijani side. Okay, I'm not going to enter into this discussion, but there is this initiative, Peace Bridge, but at different other levels, a lot can be achieved. If there is also economic exchange, if Azerbaijan starts trading with Armenia, starts purchasing goods from Armenia, this will also be a demonstration of goodwill and a desire for strengthening peace, and trying to make sure that people in bordering communities start talking with each other slowly, gradually, but this will also be an important step. So there are different ideas, and I think but things need to be done cautiously. At the first level will be the reduction of hostile rhetoric from the Azerbaijani side. But I can see that there are some signs recently of a bit more measured rhetoric, and let's hope that things will improve.
Thank you. Also,
Thank
do you
you.
have more questions?
No, thank you very much, Lousineh.
Thank you very much from my side. It was a pleasure to discuss these very interesting and important issues with you. And let's hope that our discussion also contributes to further peace between our countries.